So today's reading is a spread that my pop culture advisor, who's 15, tells me that I should have done 6 months ago. And that has been brewing for the last 6 months and kind of ready to become a spread for a little while. So we've got 8 positions here on the board, and the reading that I've got for you today, for the coming days, weeks, and months, is the Pink Pony Club tarot reading. So a little bit of fun there for us, as well as some explorations of who we are and how we can be in the places that we belong. So I'll talk you through the spread, and then we will go ahead and pull some cards. So the first 2 positions I've got here at the top are about these little voices or knowings that we get. So they are, I'm going to call them voices. So over here we've got wicked dreams and crazy visions. And this is what happens when the universe has something to tell you that maybe you already know. And actually these dreams and visions are just confirming what you already know within yourself. So this is the voice of your dreams and visions. This is the voice of the universe telling you where you could be, should be, might feel more like yourself. And on the other side here, the other voice we call it Mama. So this might be the voice of your mum. It might be the voice of the society around you. And it might be the voice of your own internalized beliefs. And this is the voice that wants you to stay where you are. And it's a complex position, this, because although this can seem restrictive at times, if you don't want to stay where you are and you have this voice within you or out with you telling you to stay where you are, it can feel restrictive. It usually also has a purpose as well. So we're going to explore that nuance that, sometimes this voice, even if it's not, if it doesn't want the same for you that you want, what it does want is some form of safety. So often when we stay where we are, when we stay in the comfort zone, this can be about safety. So, we have here the voices of wicked dreams and crazy visions, and we have here the voices of Mama, who wants you to stay. And then in this central position here, the position I'm going to call Queens, this special place where boys and girls can all be queens every single day. And this is about identity. It's about who you are. It's about how you show up and how you can express your identity in a way that claims it, that's powerful and celebratory. So this position here, Queens, is about identity. We've then got these 3 positions which I'd really like to introduce as a trio, although they all do function on their own. And so we've got Tennessee. Now, I've never been to Tennessee. I don't think I ever will. But I have an understanding from the song that this represents. For the purposes of this reading, it's going to represent where you're coming from and also where you maybe not quite got as well. Then over here, I've used the pink magnet to represent it as the Pink Pony Club. So this is about a place, an environment of belonging. And down here in the middle, I have something that I've called craft. And I think this really comes through in the video for this song. So you've got this person and she's dancing. And this dancing is incredibly skilled. It's a real, to dance like that, you have to use your whole body, you have to use your whole creative energy. You have to have courage, you have to have confidence, you have to have strength, you have to have skill. It's a craft. And it's a form of expression. It's a creative expression. And I wanted to put that in here because it's really important that expression and that craft can be received in different ways, in different places. So when I watch that video, I see this this craft, this form of expression, these mad skills being in Tennessee, not really appreciated. She's, maybe a bit objectified. And then in the Pink Pony Club, celebrated, there's a scene, she's being sort of carried, there's other drag queens around. So a celebration of that, skills of that expression. And so the craft is the same, the dancing. But depending on your environment, it is received and you are received in different ways. So we've got Tennessee and we've got the Pink Pony Club. And then 2 positions down here, and these are really, really important for life every day. And so for today and for the future. And one is fun, just having fun. How can we have a little bit of fun or a lot of fun today, this week, this month, this year, in our lives? And the other is keep on dancing, So how do we take this forward when we find a place where we feel that we belong, when we find a craft that we're really skilled at, when we find that we can be our authentic selves and be celebrated for our authentic selves? How can we then get into a place where we can keep on dancing? So what can we do? Tarot reading's always about agency, isn't it? What agency do we have to keep on dancing? So let's go ahead and pull some cards. I'll invite you to take a deep breath. And just go inside and ask to receive what you need from this reading. And this reading is for everybody. And I know there may be some people watching who have been having wicked dreams and crazy visions and wondering how to go ahead and fulfill them. So this is especially for you. And the deck that I'm using this week is the Modern Witch Tarot by Lisa Sterle. So our first 2 positions then, I'll draw 2 cards for these. And they're the voices, so the dreams and visions and the voice of Mama, or the wanting to stay in the comfort zone. So dreams and visions, we have, I love it, the Tower. So this is a brilliant one for what these dreams and visions. We're going to have fun with this one. I'm just going to put it up here for a moment to draw the other. Which is the comfort zone, the what wants you to stay. And that is the 7 of Wands. So we'll look at those 2 individually and then look at how they work. So the Tower, Major Arcana 16, a card in the tarot which can sometimes look a little bit scary. Now, we know that none of the cards themselves are innately scary. They all have lessons for us. They all have good advice for us. And they all have invitations for us. So I'll describe this card. We've got a tower here which is being struck by lightning. And it's had a crown on top of it. And there's fire coming out the top as well. The crown's toppling. People are falling from the tower. They're falling onto the rocks below. There's thunder. There's big storm clouds, a black sky and a rain of fire. And this is why people sometimes think that this card can be a little bit scary. What the Tower usually means, in its very simplest reading, is that, there is a shake-up coming. And perhaps if you do have, dreams and visions and the universe telling you perhaps that you are not where you should be, or perhaps that you know where you should be, this can cause a shake-up. It can cause a huge shake-up. And sometimes this bolt of lightning in the card is described as a flash of inspiration. So with the Tower, yes, some things need to fall down. And this is why it's just the most perfect card for this position, because when the universe is telling you where you need to be, if where you need to be involves that change, that moving out of your comfort zone, that going somewhere new, somewhere different, whether that's a physical movement or just a change in how you are, what you do, it doesn't have to be a movement of location, but when the universe is telling you that you need to be somewhere other than you are, that can hit you like a lightning bolt. And some things will have to fall. You can't keep doing what you've always done and get different than what you've always got. So if things are going to change, some things have to be released. That's not always comfortable, which is, again, must be acknowledged in the Tower card, that this can be extremely uncomfortable, an extremely uncomfortable process. And sometimes we have to let go of things that have felt like they've given us power or safety, like the Tower itself. That can be about beliefs, it can be about identity, it can be about roles that we've taken on. It can be about the way that things work. So whether that is in an institution, a family, whatever it is, the Tower is your sign that things need to change. So it does tell us that, for some of us, these messages that something's got to give are really, really strong. And the piece of advice I give with the Tower is that sometimes a Tower moment, like we've all lived through Tower moments in our life when it feels like, everything's suddenly been swept away and we haven't really had much control over it. We can have more control over Tower moments when we make our decisions consciously. So if there is something that's not right in our lives, if there's something that needs to change, it needs to go, that needs to make space, the Tower falling down makes space for something new. And the next card in the Major Arcana, so sequentially the next card in the Tarot after the Tower, is the Star, which is all about authenticity, being in your own self. It's a very, very beautiful card, and we make space for that by getting rid of what had gone before. The card before it is the Devil, which is about stuck beliefs, stuck behaviours. So the Tower really is a card of change. If something's got to give, you can either choose to confront that and start to make the necessary changes, and it's not necessarily easy. But that gives you some agency, because when the Tower shows up, if you're not the one consciously making the changes, then usually something will happen that will create changes, that will create something different. So that is the voice of the universe inviting you to consider what has outgrown its time in your life. Is it a belief? Is it a behavior? Is it a relationship? Is it a role that you play? What needs to go? And then we've got this other card, this other voice of the comfort zone, the stay where you are, and it's the Seven of Wands. So we've got here this woman, she's standing, she's on a kind of cliff top, And she holds a wand like a staff across her body as if she's kind of fighting, defending herself. I spoke earlier about this position as representing safety, and very much it does. And we have these other 6 wands going past. Now, for those of you who know the tarot, the sequence of the wands, the 6 of wands has a parade. So we don't know if these 6 wands are actually coming at this woman, that she feels she needs to defend herself, or if they simply happen to be parading past and she feels threatened anyway. So there is this feeling of needing to defend yourself in some way. And with the 7 of Wands, what I always say is that one of the ways I interpret this is it is about taking on, like, working at full capacity. So this woman in this card, she is on top. No one's hitting her with a wand, but she's using all of her energy to stay in that state, to kind of meet the things as they come. And so this is the ones that are, of course, about energy. So I often equate them with energy work, such as Reiki or the other sort of energy work that we can do. And in this position of what wants you to stay as you are, it may almost be that there is some overwhelm. So actually the work of pulling this tower down is too much for the woman in this picture. Because she's already dealing with all of these other ones. And that's where all her energy is going. So these 2 cards don't necessarily contradict or conflict with each other. They are almost complementary. And again, it's that kind of something's got to give. Because you can use up all your energy to meet, the next thing coming and the next thing coming and the next thing coming. You can do that. But if you do it for too long, you are going to burn out. Yeah, so we have those 2 cards there. We may come back to them as well in the context of other cards. This next position is about identity, queens. And it's interesting, actually, because one of the things that does happen with the tower, particularly, sometimes the tower that needs to come down is an old identity that you have been carrying or trying to fulfill that just isn't you anymore. We all grow. We change every minute, every day, every year. So identity. I love this. It's another major arcana. Here we go, the Fool. So here you have someone who is dressed in this kind of lovely flamboyant tunic with poppies on and a matching hat. They've got a little dog with them. They're under the sun. They are carrying a small backpack and also a Walkman, or might be an iPod or an MP3 player, but they have their headphones in as well. And they are stepping towards the edge of a cliff, and we can't see in the card whether they are stepping, whether they can see what's beyond the cliff. We can't see it. We don't know whether the Fool knows what's beyond the cliff. And it's a lovely card. In the tarot, it's a major arcana card, but the number is 0. And just place that there. The reason the number is 0 is because it can show up at any point in the journey. The journey through the major arcana is sometimes called the Fool's journey. And so the Fool is the protagonist, the one who is taking the journey. So this is an invitation to consider yourself as if you were on a journey. I'm reminded of that heroine's journey story. So we have the hero's journey, which is very prominent in storytelling theory, and a lot of the work that Jan's been doing about the heroine's journey is about how that's different as well. When you are a heroine and not a hero. But the invitation here in terms of identity is about considering yourself to be on a journey, but also about trust, faith, courage, the freedom. There's freedom in the Fool. The Fool doesn't really care about either of those voices. The Fool's got their headphones in. They're listening to what they want to listen to. They're listening to their own playlist, and I don't know if they are listening to music, something they want to dance to. Maybe they're dancing off that cliff. I don't know if they're listening to stories. Stories create the world, don't they? Stories are how we create the world and co-create the world. And they might be listening to something educational, they might be learning, but the Fool has chosen what to listen to, and it's actually neither of these two voices. And so your invitation here with the Fool is to allow yourself to perhaps let go of, not necessarily let go of your identities, but let go of the beliefs that are associated with those identities, and just ask yourself, what if I didn't know who I was? What if I wasn't telling myself who I was? Who would I be then? And leave space for something new to come in, for a new discovery or rediscovery of self, of who you are. And perhaps if there is a cliff that, you know, you're considering stepping over, it's a metaphorical cliff, of course. It's an invitation to take a leap of faith, a leap of courage, a leap of trust. So that is another invitation there. And again, this is in this position of identity, of how you show up. So perhaps that thing about not listening to either of these voices is simply about letting go of who you think you should be to please others, to please yourself, and to see what's there instead if you leave that space. So our next positions then, I want to start actually with the sort of what I called your craft, your expression, the dancing. What's your dance? How do you express yourself? How does your creativity come through? How do you express and celebrate that identity? And oh, this is interesting. It's another Wands card that's come up. This time it's a 5 of Wands. And this is a card that I often see as being about dancing. Here, perhaps not so much. Perhaps it's more about training. So what we've got is we've got 5 people. They've all got these long staffs. And I call this a dance because they're all touching each other. And if any one of them makes a move, it affects everyone else. So I see this as a card of interconnectedness. And the interconnectedness is probably the main message of this card. So in this position of your craft, your dancing, again, Wands is about creative energy, about creativity. So it is an invitation to step into your creativity and perhaps to dance with others. So whether this is about as you step into your foolishness and claim your identity, who you are, how you show up, it may be as simple as that when you do that, you're visible to others and they in their turn be inspired. But there is something here really about sort of how when you make one move, it affects everything. And it is about skill. If you see these 5 people as people who are training, they are training in moving their bodies in ways that, because they are well trained, they'll become natural. So, where someone who practices, for example, martial arts, will train regularly until those moves are just hardwired into their body, their muscle memory, so that when it comes a time to fight, to interact with those skills, they don't have to think about it. It becomes unconscious. It's the same with meditation. I know many of us here are meditators. And the neuroscience of meditation is that the reason we have a formal practice, say for mindfulness, the reason we have a formal mindfulness practice is because it creates neural pathways in the brain, so that when we need to be a little bit more mindful, that comes naturally if we have a formal practice, a regular practice. And of course, that happens very, very quickly as well over time. With practice as we get into our practice. And then the next position we have is Tennessee. So this complex position of where you're coming from and where maybe your craft, your expression, your identity may also not quite be seen, understood, or got. So it is... there is a little bit of nuance in this position. And we've got the 8 of Pentacles. It's a lovely card. It's our first Pentacles card in the reading. And what we see here is somebody who is creating pentacles, an artist. And they have a tablet and they're drawing a pentacle on their tablet. There's another one on a piece of paper beside them and another 6 lined up along the side of the card, and they're sitting at a desk below a window, and through the window we can see trees and the towers of a city. So the 8 of Pentacles is about taking things day by day, going slowly. It's about consistency, showing up consistently. So in this position of Tennessee, this kind of nuanced position, we've got this tension of things needing to not happen all at once. So perhaps things needing to go step by step, one day at a time, which is part of the message of the 8 of Pentacles. But also this kind of perhaps a sense of impatience that things aren't changing quickly enough, especially if you're feeling this tower energy and this Fool energy. There's a lot of movement in those cards. So this 8 of Pentacles can act as a grounding influence, something to kind of bring down the edge of that swiftness, but also as something that is slowing, that is kind of anchoring as well. And this is the kind of contradiction of this position. And then the position of the Pink Pony Club, so belonging. And look at this is the 4 of Wands. So we've got 2 people here. We can see them between 2 of 4 wands that are upright in the ground. And they have a kind of garland of flowers and leaves strung between them. It's a celebration scene. And behind them, again, is the city, that same city that we see in the 8 of Pentacles. So it is important to note that is something which is present in both of these positions. And of course, in cities, what do we have? We have communities, we have groups of people. And so the 4 of Wands in this position of Pink Pony Club is actually really very simple and self-explanatory. So the 4 of Wands, again, Wands, creative energy, fire, it's the element of fire. But the 4 of Wands is about celebration. And it's about, sometimes it can be about milestones. Sometimes it can be about wider celebrations. So, anything from birthdays, life milestones to kind of celebrations that the whole community might celebrate. And it really is, with this position of belonging, it really is about finding the place where you celebrate and are celebrated. So who celebrates you? Who is that community that celebrates you? Who do you celebrate with when there's something to celebrate with? And really, this is your reminder, your invitation to do that, to seek out that community, to celebrate with that community, to celebrate each other. Just a note on the colour scheme here, we've got this kind of yellow which is present it's present in some degree in all of the cards, but particularly in the centre, this Fool, which was about identity, and in the sky of the Four of Wands. And the Fool is walking away from the Four of Wands. So the way I would see that is that when you have a community that celebrates you and that you can celebrate with, they've got your back, which means that it's safe to turn outwards, to take those leaps of faith and of courage. And then the Fool sort of turns towards this Eight of Pentacles here in this position of Tennessee, that like it is okay to... you perhaps might have more confidence in returning to, or facing your Tennessee when you have had this experience of being in a community where you can celebrate together and where you've been celebrated. The next card, next position, is all about fun. Okay, so how can we invite a little bit or a lot of fun in whatever we're doing? The Sun, it's another major arcana card. And so this is really, again, it's another invitation, which we shouldn't be surprised with this spread, to show up how you are. So in this card, we see a child on a horse. They're waving a massive flag. They've got sunflowers around them, and then in the center at the top of the card you've got the sun with a face and sunbeams going out in all directions. So sun, the meaning of this card, the way that I would typically read it is about get out there and shine, be who you are. It's a simple message. But it's a powerful one if you haven't been doing that. And this is an invitation to show up as you are and show up in what you enjoy. So whatever is fun for you, this is... that's how to have fun. Is really that simple. Whatever makes you shine, whatever makes you feel like you're being kissed by the sun, or whatever makes you feel like you're giving out rays of light, whatever feels most like yourself, that's what to do to have fun. And it's that simple. It's a really, really simple message for us. And then keep on dancing. How do we keep on dancing? So this is really about how we continue having fun, how we continue to honor who we are, how we continue to find our community, and engage with and be with that community whilst honoring our roots as well. So how do we carry on from here? Oh, this is very interesting. So it's the Three of Swords, the only swords card in the reading, and you can see this is one of those cards that isn't always comfortable. So you've got three swords through a heart in a rainy sky, and there's a kind of black liquid coming out where those swords are piercing the heart. Now, traditionally, this card would be read as being about heartbreak. So it's a swords card, which are about the element of air and the mind, and yet at the same time, Um, it's it's an emotional card. It's got a big heart in the middle of it. It's about heartbreak. So although it's a mental energy card, it's really, really strongly associated with the heart, which is worth remembering, that heart and mind are, of course, connected, and we are all one system. We're not these separate boxes. So with it being in this position of how do we keep on dancing, I would read that as being about, actually, we do have, as we have this tower here, illuminating us and also kind of pulling some things down. What I said earlier about, the best way to go about that is to, if something's got to give, to examine it and start that process of something giving intentionally rather than letting it happen to you. And I think this is about the same thing, like acknowledging that even when we have, this, we're able to have fun, we're able to show up in who we are, right? We have some courage, we can take trust, we're celebrated, we're practicing our skill. There are going to be things that we are carrying within us, and these might be old wounds, they might be new reactions, and just to examine those and acknowledge them. And so perhaps to hold a space for this, there has been some sort of nuance and tension between things being two things at once in this reading. And perhaps that is an invitation that, we can be carrying things, wounds, and living our best lives at the same time. And the thing with any kind of emotion, and the reason this is a swords card and not a cups card, is that there is often a narrative with it. I mentioned earlier about how stories create the world, how we create the world with our stories. And mindfulness practice, when we have an emotion, when we have a feeling, and with that Three of Swords, it can feel really very devastating. Often we then try to explain that feeling with a story. So the story might be about how we are, what's wrong with us, or how those other people are treating us, and those stories might be true or partially true, but they're not the whole story, and they're not the same as the emotion. So if we can identify the story, the swords, we can start to remove them and release the heart. And when the body mind, the human experiences the emotion, when it's not attached to that story, it's just an experience that we are with, and it might be an uncomfortable experience, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't let your feelings feed unhelpful stories, and especially because this tower is about getting rid of that which is no longer serving us. We really are invited to look at what's no longer serving us. And the old stories, whether or not they're true, doesn't matter. The old stories don't serve us anymore, and we might have to release them. And that might feel like a tower coming down, but it frees us up. It frees us up to be who we are. And that's fun. So that is the reading. Thank you very much for joining me. And I wish you a wonderful day and time ahead. Thank you.